Hack the Entrepreneur is part of Rainmaker FM, the digital business podcast network. Find more great shows and education at rainmaker.fm. Hack the Entrepreneur is supported by Citi Cards with Android Pay. Listening on your phone? Now you can pay while you listen using the same device. Just tap and go. Download the Android Pay app on Google Play or visit citi.com/androidpay to get started. Android Pay is available for eligible Citi consumer credit and debit cards.
Welcome to Hack the Entrepreneur, the show which reveals the fears, habits, and inner battles behind big-name entrepreneurs and those on their way to joining them. Now here is your host, John Naster.
Hey, welcome back to Hack the Entrepreneur. I am so glad you decided to join me today. I'm your host, John Naster, but you can call me Johnny. My guest today is a self-proclaimed maker, but I would call him an entrepreneur, writer, designer, developer, and master marketer, although he may cringe at that last part. My guest has been developing and shipping products online for over 10 years and has seen his share of successes and not so successful ventures. He is currently the founder of Baremetrics, software analytics and reporting for Stripe. Baremetrics seemingly came out of nowhere with an awesome content strategy led by my guest on Baremetrics blog, which is one of the best blogs about the software business on the internet today. Now, let's hack Josh Pigford. Hack the Entrepreneur is sponsored by Citi Cards with Android Pay. How cool is it that we live in a world where you can use the same device to listen to Hack the Entrepreneur and buy your morning coffee, groceries, and more? And did I mention that it's a super fast way to pay? Just use your Citi card with Android Pay at the register. Get in, get it, get going. Download the Android Pay app on Google Play or visit citi.com/androidpay to get started. Android Pay is available for eligible Citi consumer credit and debit cards. Welcome back to Hack the Entrepreneur. Today's guest is somebody I've been wanting on the show for quite a few months. So Josh, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, John.
My pleasure. All right, Josh, let's jump straight into it. Josh, as an entrepreneur, can you tell me what is the one thing that you do that you feel has been the biggest contributor to your successes so far?
I think the main thing is just shipping stuff. So not getting caught up on this idea of perfect. You know, the sayings like shipped is better than done, or perfect. Maybe I've totally just botched that. Shipped is better than perfect. I think that's the saying, but that's like that. I mean, the general idea there, like that getting something out the door is much better than getting something perfect out the door. Because I mean, in reality, especially in software, perfect doesn't really exist.
Yeah. And you've been shipping for over 10 years now?
Yeah. I probably built my first real thing, I don't know, at least 10 years ago.
Wow. Nice. And so it seems from the outside, I didn't know who Josh Pigford was until I believe last June, maybe, or was it June or July? I saw like somehow you ended up on my Twitter and then you were doing those lunch hour Q&A sort of things.
Oh, yeah.
Those were awesome. And then all of a sudden it was just Josh Pigford from then on. But you were at it for a long time before that. So there seems to be this time in every entrepreneur's life. They realize one of two things. Either they have this calling to make something big in the world, or they simply cannot work for somebody else. Josh, which side of this fence do you fall on?
I'm pretty firmly on the I can't work for anybody else. And I'm not like a bad, like we'll get in lots of arguments and we'll hate each other kind of bad employee. I get zero fulfillment from like, building somebody else's thing. And I think for the longest time, I was splitting my time between building my own stuff and also doing consulting work. Mm-hmm. And like was fun. It was fun to like, I enjoyed the sort of winning a contract side of things. And I enjoy just building things because it's fun. But at the end of the day, it's like you'd ship something for a client and then that was sort of it. Like I just didn't care about it. And so I've always been the kind of, I'm just going to build my own thing. I probably should clarify there. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think I build stuff for the web because I don't want to work for somebody else. I think I build stuff for the web because I like building stuff. Like that's probably the main driver. It's just fun to build a thing. Now, whether that's from the design side or the development side or like the management, like let's get the team on board and we'll all build the thing. I mean, I don't know that I'm kind of indifferent on that, but I mean, I think the idea of just building a thing as a solution to a problem is pretty motivating for me. But I just need to have a lot of skin in the game, I guess, for it to really be fulfilling.
Fair enough. And so zero fulfillment, building somebody else's sort of thing, and maybe you're not the worst employee, you think you just don't get the fulfillment. But was there things, I'm wondering, just with the growth of Baremetrics over the last year, is there things that you, when you ever were an employee, that you didn't like about bosses that you've consciously decided not to do?
No, I mean, in reality, I've had one real quote unquote, like I'm just a cog in the machine job. And that was 10 years ago. And it lasted for 7 weeks. So, I mean,
you really can't work for somebody else.
I don't know. It's just, like that was, I was fresh out of college and I went to go work at an interactive design firm. And that's slave work. So like, it was the salary. In hindsight, I didn't know any better. I mean, I was just right out of college. I just like took this job offer. And then after 7 weeks of commuting and realizing like, this isn't fun, I quit and I hadn't looked back. So I don't know. I'm probably the wrong person to ask from there. It's been a while since I've had a real job.
Nice.
And I never really had a real job.
Fair enough. So how do you deal with, it seems from the outside that, I mean, you spent 10 years where maybe not as many people obviously knew about who you were. It seems like that whole 10 years to an overnight success type story. How do you deal with the idea that you really didn't know how to maybe be a boss? Maybe you didn't know how to get funding. How do you deal with the fact that you don't probably know what the things that you have to do this week in your business, because you've probably never had to do lots of them before, and there's always going to be first times for all these things? How do you sort of deal with the fact that like, whoa, I'm in this position now that I have to act like I know what I'm doing?
Sure. For me, like I actively go seek out those things. Like if I find myself super comfortable in some position, then I feel like I'm doing something wrong. Like I firmly believe that the things that are the hardest to do are, and most of the time, the thing that you should actually be going after. And so, because chances are nobody else is, or at least very few are. So for me, like I'm comfortable or even thrive in when I don't have a fat clue what I'm doing. I think, and how do I sort of manage that? I mean, I don't know. I just kind of do it. And there's a bit of like fake it till you make it. But in reality, I think most, and when I say most, I mean like 99% of people who are making anything, building any kind of business, nobody actually knows what they're doing. Like they're just throwing stuff out there. You might be making some educated guesses, but nobody actually knows what, like how everything will play out, or there's always some step that they haven't done before. And so I think, I don't know, for me, like I'm comfortable there. Some people aren't, but that's just kind of what works for me.
Yeah. And it's funny because that was exactly how I was going to phrase it, was nobody knows what they're doing. Like nobody.
Right.
There's always that, like, how do you do this? Well, I mean, you just figure it out the first time and then it's like, oh, okay, I got it. That's how you do it.
Right.
And you move on.
Yep.
Did this come naturally to you though?
Sure. I mean, I think I'm naturally sort of a problem solver. So I think things that I don't know how to do don't stress me out. It's sort of, in reality, it kind of gets me pumped up. So, you know, there's some big thing that I don't know how to do. Okay, well, let's pull it apart and see how we make that happen, and then kind of go from there.
Wow, that's cool. Okay, so we talked about you shipping stuff is your one thing that has been your biggest contributor. Now, every expert out there tells us the whole 80-20. Do 20%, get 80% of the result. And then this whole do what you're good at and then delegate the rest. Josh, in your business, what is something you are absolutely not good at?
A lot of stuff. I would say I'm not good at. I would say I'm not really a good developer, which is kind of interesting because I mean, like I built the first version of Baremetrics and like it was the only guy developing anything for the first 6 months. But I mean, I would say most things I can kind of hack my way through. I'm not good at being like the best guy, like the absolute best top of the line designer or the absolute best top of the line developer, customer support guy or marketing guy. But it's like, I think, but to me, I think that's where like hiring people who are really great at that, like, the people in our team they're all amazing at their jobs. I think for me, sort of my strength is like combining all these things together to make something happen, right? Like putting all the pieces together and taking all these resources and making something happen. But I'm bad at being extremely specialized.
That's pretty cool. I actually wouldn't have expected you to say that you're not a good developer because I know that you built the first version yourself, and that's
right. Well, but I mean, like it's a means to an end. Like I taught myself to code, a decade ago because I needed to have something built. Like I needed an end product. I don't code because I enjoy coding.
And then who was the first person you hired in Baremetrics?
An engineer.
An engineer, really?
Yeah.
Nice. You were just like this I need a developer.
Well, I mean, I was way over my head. I mean, like I built the first version, then it's like, I don't know how to deal with like data sets this large. And so I was just, the house was burning down. And so I had to hire that out quick.
And was it another developer after that? Like how strategic were you?
Sure. Strategic would be a generous word. I mean, so back-end engineer, front-end engineer, and designer, those were actually hired at the same time. Then another back-end engineer I hired another back-end engineer and a customer support guy. Basically, I think pretty much exactly the same time.
Nice. And during all this, you were marketing, like you were the content guy. That's been, yes. From the start. And you still are.
Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome. Because would you say that that's, obviously a massive part of the success of the company?
Sure. The content part, but I think it's sort of a like content. And then we've got this whole like public dashboard, open startup thing.
Just last week.
Right. Well, announced it in sort of this official capacity, I guess. But we've been doing, actually a year ago today is when we partnered with Buffer for them to make their dashboard public.
Right.
And so that kind of, for us, that's marketing. Mm-hmm. And so that kind of stuff is what I've been super focused on and has worked really well for us, is that sort of content, but also just like startup insight kind of information stuff.
Yeah. What pushed you that way? Why'd you think that was what would work?
I don't know. It's sort of, I think, a natural outpouring of what we do. So, Baremetrics is a tool built specifically for entrepreneurs. So it's not, you've got something like a survey platform that might be for more of like a research kind of position or a marketing director or something like that, or like a tools like a help desk that's more for like the customer support people. But like our tool is built specifically for the people running the business. So as me running Baremetrics, the sort of easiest route was for me to write about that. And it just happens to be that's good specifically for our audience. So it works out well.
Nice. Okay, let's move into what we'll loosely call projects. So whether new features or this new open dashboard that went public last week, how is it that you determine do you have a process to decide on what is a new project that you should take on, either personally or within Baremetrics?
Sure. So, within Baremetrics, a lot of it it comes from a mixture of customer feedback, then kind of features that I think long-term make a lot of sense for us as a business. So maybe customers haven't been specifically asking for it, but it's something that kind of either expands our market share or maybe provides a new source of revenue or something like that. And then there's like this gut instinct element that's just me kind of taking a stab in the dark and thinking like, this may be good for us. So that's kind of how I decide on the business side. And then on like the personal side, I don't really have a ton of side projects anymore. I have hobbies that are completely not tech related at all.
Like cool hobbies?
Like what? No, nothing. They're all geeky or dork. Not even geeky. Geeky's I would say like they're dorky, like woodworking and like gardening, like old man kind of stuff.
That's Fair enough. Fair enough. So side projects, I guess, is something that you will probably get less and less into the bigger your company grows, right? The busier you get.
Well, for me, they're basically non-existent. I mean,
Right.
I don't work on other, at least not, yeah. I mean, side projects are all analog things. Like it's stuff not related to business, not related to technology. It's just like totally not, I mean, it's completely out of that realm.
Nice. And so I guess this isn't projects, but I want to know the process of determining that you figured Barometrics needed funding, that you got, I believe last August it was, the announcement went out. What made you decide to not just bootstrap it as you were already and as you had, I think, done in the previous 10-year projects?
So the funding thing, I mean, we didn't actively go out and look for funding.
It came from...
I mean, you kind of get to a point where, especially because we were so public with our numbers, I mean, anybody could see what our growth rates were and how much money we're making and all that kind of stuff.
You wrote posts about it all the time.
Sure, exactly. So, I mean, it was a pretty common thing to have investors reaching out. Now, for the most part, the terms of those deals were never great, or they weren't necessarily bad, but they weren't anything I was interested in. So the deal that we made last, I think we closed on it like August or September. The terms of that deal were kind of too good to pass up. So it was sort of a no-brainer. I mean, if we didn't give up any immediate shares in the company, like no board seats, like it wasn't like a form of debt. So it kind of was well, of course we will, and I would have, if we could have gotten $1 million at that same rate, then I would have taken that too. I mean, like, yeah, it was just the deals were too good to pass up.
Wow. Did it surprise you or no?
Sure. I mean, I wasn't looking for it. So it kind of fell in my lap in, I think, July. And then, within, 30 to 45 days later, it was done. So
did it make you take anything serious, like more serious? Like, wow, this is like something real that I'm building.
It made me take it more serious. It probably made me look at Barometrics from a kind of like what are the bigger possibilities for Barometrics, or like that there is a bigger opportunity here than I had, because it was a scratch my own itch thing initially. And for a long time, that had always been sort of the foundation of it, was like, I'm just kind of building this for myself and let's see what happens. But then over time, that has shifted as I've realized like how big the need is. So yeah, it's solidified that.
Yeah, very cool. Okay, so from all the good stuff, the quick business growth now, the funding, let's move into, say, struggles and failures, if you've had them. Let's see. But as entrepreneurs, as humans in general, one of our greatest struggles is the fear of being wrong, right? Making a mistake, especially when you are the one in charge and you're following your gut and you think that we need to now do this, and it turns out to be completely wrong. So Josh, could you maybe tell me how to be wrong within your business?
So I think a lot of times it's sort of a relative thing. I mean, like, I am wrong a lot, but most of the time it's on such like a small scale. And I think that's sort of a strategic move on my part, is to not be epically wrong on things, or at least not be so wrong on something. And this, I'm answering like sideways way of answering your question here. But I mean, like, I think like the key to doing wrong correctly is to not put yourself in a position to just completely blow it. So like when we ship stuff, we break it into smaller pieces. Like we don't just hack away at something for 6 months, throw it out in the wild and like hope that we were right. We did a lot of like tiny little releases along the way to stick our toe in the water. Then it would adjust as we were going. So I think that's sort of the key, is like this sort of shipping fast and frequently kind of mindset, is that it prevents you from just completely screwing up in a major way.
Yeah. Avoiding being epically wrong.
Yeah.
I like that. Well said. All right, Josh, I'm going to end off on something I'm calling the entrepreneurial gap. You've been building stuff for 10 years. You've been probably oftentimes looking forward. And I feel that as entrepreneurs, we set goals, right, for ourselves and things we want to do 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, a year, 5 years, 10 years down the road. And before we even get to some of these goals, we've already like set 5 loftier ones in advance, but we never stop and look at where we've come from and the crazy stuff that we've gone through and accomplished. So Josh, could you please stop right now, turn around for me and look at where you've come in the last 10 years and just tell me how you feel about that?
Sure. I mean, I think to me that if you look at where I was a decade ago, obviously I've come a long way. I think it's a super gradual thing though. And so I think a lot of times people look at other people and think like, when where they're at now is where that person was a decade ago, and think like, okay, I have to do this, I have to become like whatever they're at now. And it's sort of like this, like I think like our generation or just anybody alive today that's not, older than 50, like there's this mentality of, you think like we try to have the things that took our parents like 30 years to get, and we want that now. And it's like, well, no, your parents may have worked 30 years to get to where they're at now. I mean, that's not necessarily always the case for everybody now, but I mean, I think that's the case in business too, where you look at people now and think like, oh, I want to be in that position now, but not put in the work to get it done, and know that it takes a long time. It can take a really long time, and most of the time does take a long time. So I don't know, when I look back, like it's exciting, but it's not necessarily surprising to me, at least, because it's like, I feel like I've put in the work.
Yeah, no, and that's good. And I think it's true, because people would look at you now and be like, well, look at him in the last 2 years, right? But it's like, well, no, there's 8 years prior to that. And to you, it's, no, I've been working and working and working.
Yep.
That's cool. I appreciate the answer. So Josh, we've got to talk about you and your business in passing. Can you specifically tell the audience where to find out more about both?
So you can find out about Baremetrics at baremetrics.com and read the blog, baremetrics.com/blog. And you can find me on Twitter at Pigford, that's SHPIGFORD, or shoot me an email, josh@joshpigford.com.
I forgot you, baremetrics.com. That's awesome. I still have it as IO on my...
Oh, yeah. No, not anymore.
Very cool. I will link to your Twitter and to Baremetrics in the show notes for everyone. Josh, please keep doing what you're doing, man, because it's awesome to watch. And thank you so much for taking the time to join me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, John.
Mr. Josh Pigford, everybody. Josh, that was fun. And I thank you so much. I've wanted you on the show since I launched, and I finally got you, and I'm so happy. Baremetrics blog, even if you don't need barometrics right now in your business, as content marketers, you need to see what Josh is doing, because Josh is doing amazing things. He's building a business based on growing an audience first through his content, and he's just really, really nailing it, and he's working his ass off, and he's doing a really, really good job. So check out Baremetrics blog. I will link to it in the show notes if that makes it easier for you. Otherwise, just look at baremetrics.com and there's a blog. So Josh, you didn't let me down, man. It was a great conversation. You said a lot of smart things. There was a lot of things that he said, but there was one thing. Wasn't there? There was. There was one thing he said. Did you get it? Did you hear it? Let's do it. Let's find the hack.
The things that are the hardest to do are, and most of the time, the thing that you should actually be going after. And so, because chances are nobody else is, or at least very few are. So for me, like I'm comfortable or even thrive in when I don't have a fat clue what I'm doing.
And that's the hack. Josh. Thank you. You are so right. The things that are the hardest to do are usually totally the things that we should be doing and that are worth doing. And then to finish it off, I love how Josh is comfortable. He loves to be putting himself into positions where he doesn't have a fat clue what he's doing. We need to do this. This is just an exercise. This is just a muscle. Getting used to this uncomfortable feeling of not knowing what you are doing, this just takes practice. It's really, really hard to do at the beginning. Josh has been doing this for over 10 years now online alone. He's gotten used to it, and his success is proof of it. This is something that we really, really need to do. And then to go back to that, the things that are hardest to do, that's like this concept that I talk about all the time, Seth Godin's idea of the dip. The dip, the bigger and longer that dip is, the harder those stretches are to get through, the bigger the rewards are on the other side. Because 90% or 99.999% of the people, if that dip and that thing is really, really hard to get through, they don't make it to the other side. In this business with podcasting, most people don't make it through those dips. They just don't. They start, they get all excited, and they go as hard as they can, and then audience starts to fade a bit, and they just give up because it's hard. There's no direct reward. The reward is massive, but it's through these hard places. And absolutely, the harder that place is to get through, the more you know that you have to get through it, because the reward on the other side is huge. Josh, thank you so much. All right, this has been a lot of fun, as always. This is coming out, and I'm on a road trip with my family across your beautiful country of the USA, if that's where you live. I'm from Canada, but we're going through the northern part of the States, from Ontario or Minnesota, I guess it would be down there, across to Washington State. And then we're going up and going to spend the summer in Vancouver, BC, Canada. If you happen to be around any of those spots in between or in Vancouver this summer, hit me up, John at Hack the Entrepreneur. I would love to hear from you. I'd love to take you out for coffee and chat if we could. It's going to be a lot of fun. So thank you so much for stopping by. You have no idea how much I appreciate it. I really, really, really do. And I just think it's really cool that you've decided to take the time with me. So please, have yourself a great day. And until next time, please keep hacking the entrepreneur.